The beans in your morning coffee crossed 3 dark oceans on a massive steel ship before you even woke up today. This data visualization shows global shipping routes. 90% of all physical objects cross oceans, a volume that dwarfs the fractions carried by planes or trains. We spend a lot of time marveling at the engineering of these 400-meter floating warehouses, but we rarely zoom in on the people actually living inside those welded steel hulls. To anyone living in a developed economy, the mariners who guide these vessels are a completely invisible workforce. You depend on them absolutely, yet you will likely never meet them. In 2020, the bulk carrier MV Wakashio slammed into the coral reefs of Mauritius, pouring over 1,000 tons of fuel into the water. Investigators found the crew had been working continuously for over 12 months without setting foot on land. This is the physical cost of operating an exhausted workforce. Operating the world's commercial fleet requires a highly specialized labor force of about 1.89 million seafarers. Over the last century, the source of that labor shifted away from traditional maritime nations like Britain and Norway toward the global south. Today, the overwhelming majority of the world's operational mariners come from nations like Indonesia and, most notably, the Philippines. This chart shows their massive impact. Roughly 380,000 active Filipino seafarers generate over $6.9 billion annually in remittances. These funds flow directly into thousands of coastal communities, funding education and small businesses, acting as a powerful engine for poverty reduction. These sailors endure professional danger and years of separation from their families to send that money home. They trade their youth to the ocean to fund their nation's development. Getting a job on one of these ships requires navigating the STCW Convention, the international treaty that mandates exact training standards for commercial mariners. Cadets face years of rigorous academics and heavy physical sea practice before they can legally stand watch. Once at sea, a merchant vessel operates as a strict hierarchy. At the absolute top is the master or captain. Under international maritime law, the captain holds supreme command authority from the bridge, carrying sole legal liability for every single decision made on board. Deep below the waterline, the chief engineer commands the mechanical systems keeping the ship alive. Due to a severe global shortage of senior engineering officers, the chief engineer often commands a salary equal to or even slightly above the captain's. That money comes at a steep psychological cost. Standard contracts last anywhere from 4 to 9 continuous months. Mariners spent their days in vibrating metallic cabins, trying to watch their children take their first steps over freezing, lagging satellite internet connections. Inside that isolated environment, the ship's chief cook becomes the most vital diplomat on board. Managing diverse religious diets, from halal to Hindu vegetarian, the cook uses food to bridge the deep cultural gaps among a crew of Filipinos, Ukrainians, Indians, and Indonesians. You build a tight-knit family out of complete strangers to survive the voyage, only to pack your bags and leave them behind. You return months later to an entirely new crew, repeating the cycle for your entire career. The fragility of this system was exposed in early 2020. As borders slammed shut and populations retreated to their homes, consumer demand for groceries, medical supplies, and electronics skyrocketed. The shipping industry could not stop. Companies used a legal doctrine called force majeure to extend contracts indefinitely. At the peak, an estimated 400,000 seafarers were trapped aboard their vessels, some for up to 18 continuous months. Denied basic transit rights to go home, they transitioned into a state that international labor organizations explicitly described as modern-day forced labor. The moment the immediate emergency passed and borders reopened, the world simply looked away again. The intense psychological distress absorbed by these stranded workers went entirely unaddressed, and returning to normal means returning to deep structural flaws. For example, despite decades of diversity initiatives, outdated prejudices still restrict entry, leaving women to make up only 1 to 2% of the active global seafaring workforce. The sea demands an immense toll from the humans who cross it. The next time you pick up a manufactured object, try to look past the brand label. Think of the isolation, the fatigue, and the months of separation endured by the unseen hands that guided it across